dhobi. He thinks he's the best dhobi. He doesn't believe in having any gardener. He thinks he's the best gardener, and he doesn't. So everything he has to do himself, and that is what I, and as a feminist, my friends used to tease me that I used to keep saying that, men don't work. They should, before I got married, men should share in housework and all that. And when I got married and I met my friend for the first time, and then I said, what do I do? He does everything. I really do. And she says, serves you right. No, you used to talk too much. So anyway, thanks a lot, Lydia. That was beautiful. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Shri Hari Narayana, who's also a great friend. And we've known them for so many years. In fact, knowing them right from the time we came to Hyderabad, and I still remember his parents, the late J.V. Rao and Mrs. Kamlabai, visiting our house when we were staying in Srinivas Nagar colony. His father worked in railways, and it was, he joined the IS in 1970. Hari Narayan has a very illustrious career. He's worked in various districts like Khammam, Nizamabad, Srikakulam, Krishna, Kadapa. And he was involved throughout his career in infrastructure development and industrial finance. He was the managing director of the Leather Industries Corporation, the Small Scale Industrials Development and Industrial Development Corporation in the government of Andhra Pradesh. He has also been the MD of Irrigation Development Corporation, the Principal Secretary of Irrigation, and he also served the Electricity Board, the Sringeri Coal Mines, Ministry of Coal and Food Processing, Ministry of Rural Development. Hari, if I start speaking about your career, I think our whole time will end. He has such a illustrious career, and his last appointment before he retired in 2008 was as Chief Secretary of the Government of Andhra Pradesh. He is known for the privatization of large-scale public sector in Hyderabad, the Alvin, and designing the e-procurement system for the government of Andhra Pradesh. He also provided a lot of impetus for the development of the Cherlapalli Industrial Estate, which is today a big industrial hub. And he is also responsible for the commencement of Software Technology Park in Hyderabad, which has become one of the building blocks of Hyderabad software industry. And he was part of the Indian team that negotiated with the WTO trade procurement with regards to the processed food. And he was also part of the Indian team for International Tribunal and resolution of major disputes with Pakistan arising out of the Indus Water Treaty. But personally, when I look back into my journey, something very interesting which I want to share, Hari, I didn't tell you, and this is something which I heard from Kameshri. I and Kameshri were colleagues. We had, when I joined the university in the early 1980s. And once, I believe there were selections for watchmen somewhere, and there was a huge crowd, and they were having interviews, and asking who's the chief minister, who's the capital and all. And when Hari came in, I was so impressed with this that he said, what is happening? They said, no, we are conducting interviews. He just stopped and he said, let everybody stand in a line and make them run. Whoever comes first to 5, 10, and they are selected. And I think that was wonderful, because he really, so he had a lot of these interesting ideas. But our personal association, today I introduced Tarun. When my twins were born in 1989, they were premature at night at about 11:30, 12. And those days there were no incubators in Hyderabad, I still remember. Luckily, I had carried a diary with me, and there was one of our friends' husband was a doctor in Nilofer. So those days we didn't even have mobile. Suresh went out and we called, woke them up at night. We could get a incubator in Nilofer Hospital. And so at night my twins were shifted at about 1:30. And when I went to Nilofer, it was I think it was a government hospital. There was so much crowd. I just sat in a bed. With each lady, there were about 15-20 attenders. And there were, 2-3 people with whom I had to share that bed, and I was sitting in that bed till next morning. I could not even get up and go to the toilet. It was such a difficult experience. But next morning, Kameshri and Hari Narayan came, and he got the VVIP room opened. I think there was one room for the officials, and then when we shifted, the twins were in the incubator, and we shifted there, and I think then my stay in the hospital became very easy. So Hari Narayan, we have such wonderful memories. I would really welcome Hari Narayan. We thought he would be the best person to launch the book. Thank you very much. Please. You can come. Okay, yeah. Suresh, come. Okay. We can ask Hari to please. So. नहीं बस ठीक है बाद में बुला लेंगे पहले ये करना है या Suresh's old friends, Dr. Thakur, Dr. Vani, to please come here, and Anil, my brother-in-law, come,
please. Anil, Thakur sir, Vani. I wish you congratulations. Anil.
Lydia, please, 1 minute. Lydia, can you come?
Yeah.
1 minute. नहीं
ठीक है
more pictures
Lydia,
one. She's coming. Rekha, तुम उधर चलिए.
Lydia, please.
Come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hold it like that
Want to open it?
ready
Just. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I would request Hari Narayan to speak few words.
चलो.
This is all right?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset I must thank Somo and Rekha for affording me the honor of addressing this distinguished gathering on the occasion of the launch of Somo's Memoirs. As was said by Rekha earlier, my wife Kameshwari and Rekha were teachers in the history department at the University of Hyderabad. And they, along with Aloka, who I also see in the audience, were the troika of that department for many, many years. They were colleagues, and over time, we got to know each other as families. We shared in the celebration of births, marriages, the achievements and progress of our children and of our careers, and the entire humdrum of life itself for many, many years. And this association has continued since then, even after Kameshwari left the university in '93. Also, I was briefly on the board of the ICRISAT as part of my duties as the Chief Secretary of the State. And as all of you know, Somu has spent the better part of his working life in that institution. So having known him for the past 4 decades, at work and play, over tea and over whiskey, not to mention Rekha's excellent parotas, I think I am well placed to address this gathering on the release of his biography. Generally, in the world of non-fiction literature, the category memoirs and biographies are a very popular genre. A biography, as you all are aware, draws its readers into the world of the protagonist. One's experiences, the tribulations, joys and sorrows, the victories, stumbles and defeats, the loves and friendships, their sacrifices and glories, all of the intricate and ever-changing tapestry of life itself. All of us are aware of at least vignettes from the lives of some of the giants of mankind. Think of Ho Chi Minh, Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, Raj Kapoor, A.R. Rahman, and so on. And also the many, many others who have made epochal contributions to humankind. And a few of us have actually been inspired to emulate some aspects of their life and thoughts into our own actions and our own lives. Every life has a world of experience and knowledge to share. Every life. Unfortunately, it's given only to a very few persons to actually set down their memoirs, like Somu has done. In fact, there are very many memoirs written which are seldom published. There is a library in Italy, in a village close to Florence, which collects, categorizes, and preserves and archives memoirs written by anybody. They have over time collected thousands of unpublished memoirs of all people. People from very, very humble backgrounds to very unsimple people to unknown people, all kinds of people. They have several thousands of works. And they report that on an average, they get 4 memoirs a day. That's a very small number, considering the population of Italy itself. Just 4 a day. So very few people actually write and pen down their memoirs, even if it is not for publishing. And fewer still actually publish their books. And that is because, in my view, writing, any writing, I think demands discipline, clear thinking, and while writing a memoir particularly, humility and honesty in recognizing the help and support received from named and unnamed others. Many even shape and develop a life. Each such recollected event is a note in a long and evolving song. The collection of such notes is the raga of one's life, if you will. Often such books inspire the reader to reflect on their own life, and for some, it inspires emulation and greater effort. The Memories of Tota Rani boy is beautiful music. Even though I've released the book just now, I had the benefit of reading excerpts from it chapter-wise by a small summary which Somu shared with me. From a small village in the foothills of the Himalaya, just consider the journey from a small village in the foothills of the Himalaya to the Gangetic plains and the verdant plains, to the arid land of Deccan Plateau. From there across 8 countries in Africa, and from there to the deserted part of the desert country, Saudi Arabia. It's an amazing journey in terms of the geography covered, the diversity of people and cultures which have been traversed where he has worked and spent time with its people. Dr. Pande's journey is the story of a boy who, against all odds, situational odds, he was in a remote village, familiar laws, and financial laws. Nevertheless, graduated in agricultural studies, earned a doctoral degree from India's leading institute, and from being a field researcher, grew to be the head of a research line in one of the world's premier agricultural research institutes, the ICRISAT. This story of that boy from Tota Rani isn't just a laundry list of events, but a life-giving tribute to the indomitable spirit of man. The journey of a scientist who has over 500 technical publications, of which 170 are listed in the Journal of Citations. There is generally a perception that research and academic institutions are ivory towers, far removed from the reality of life, especially in the agricultural sector. Whatever be the truth of that observation, it certainly is not true as far as Suresh Pande is concerned. Perhaps because of his early childhood experiences, the need to move developments from a laboratory to the farmer's field, this need is very pronounced in Dr. Pande. And the proof of any pudding, as we all know, especially of a cookco, is its eating. The proof of a new seed variety would only be its sustainability of its higher production on a farmer's field. For many years he labored in various countries in Africa and interior parts in India where infrastructure, particularly for agricultural research, is limited and perhaps rudimentary. Despite this limitation, Dr. Pande enabled significant advances in the understanding of and the development of different crop varieties and designing appropriate protocols for their field applications. It was never enough for him to stop at research. Any such work would be of value only if and when the farmer saw its benefit on its own field. This is what Dr. Pande and his team did in several villages in Andhra and in Africa, working alongside farmers in their fields, at their pace, sharpening his own understanding of plant morphology and pest incidence. He also, incidentally, established and ran a very large farm in the deserts of Saudi Arabia, which, as he put it himself in his book, in a totally unsustainable manner. In a desert, a large farm. I have a personal experience of Dr. Pande's concern that the findings in the laboratory are shared with practicing farmers whose livelihood depends on it. We journeyed to Hukumpeta, a village in West Godavari district of Andhra Pradesh, where my wife's family continues to farm, as they have done for many generations. Over 2 days, Dr. Pande spent a lot of time to explain the intricacies, profitability and sustainability of, in that case, mushroom farming, displaying an intimate knowledge of the work processes and the concerns of regular farmers. His conviction and enthusiasm were remarkable, as was his ability to communicate. It is now commonplace to find button mushrooms in any provision store, and to know that the production of dals and oilseeds have grown to feed an ever-growing world population. That such availability has expanded so vastly is due in no small measure to the work of Dr. Pande and his team in the lab and on the land, in India and in Africa. I must say that Dr. Pande's life wouldn't have been as complete and productive without the unstinted support of his partner and helpmate, Dr. Rekha Pande. Despite her demanding and heavy work in the University of Hyderabad, while Somu was busy understanding and getting his plants to grow, Rekha was understanding and getting their 3 sons to grow, and grow they have into fine, upstanding young men, IT engineers and doctors. This is his story. As Dr. Pande put it succinctly in his book, in reality, the approach of the Tota Rani boy to work was always governed by two principal questions. How much is the boy willing to give to his assigned job? And how much is he ready to own it? I think this, in brief, summarizes his entire approach to life and to work. It has been my privilege to commend this work of Dr. Pande, the Memoirs of a Tota Rani boy, and to remind all of us that each one's Radha is unique and indeed worth listening to. Thank you.